Welcome back to another episode of Life After Corporate, my friend. And if you're new to our show, welcome home. Today we are continuing the conversation, really the metaphysical conversation of the underpinnings of success in life, in worth, in wealth, in entrepreneurship that goes beyond what we can see, feel, hear, and touch in this three-dimensional reality. And our guest today is a good friend of mine. Her name is Barbara Alexander. She's a strategic advisor and business astrologer who guides high-performing founders and executives through leadership evolution and soul-aligned growth. And Barbara has a long, successful career in corporate. She spent 25 years in Fortune 500 companies in strategy, sales, and marketing. And she now fuses that sharp business acumen with astrology, energetics, and neuroscience-based coaching to help clients align their business and leadership with who they've become. And you've heard me say entrepreneurship is a spiritual journey. It really is a journey of becoming who you truly are. So Barbara today will share with us her work, how she supports leaders in moving with deep precision and resonance that is anchored in their energetic leadership and business blueprint. Welcome to Life After Corporate, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Deb. I'm so excited to be here. And again, thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're so welcome. So I'm loving these conversations about the metaphysical and spiritual and neuroscience aspect of who we are as humans and how that interplays with the journey of entrepreneurship. And so I would love for you to share with us a little bit about how did you discover this side of yourself and start to ignite this passion and desire to bring this work to others?
Oh, I love talking about it. So you may have to cut me short. Thank you for the introduction. I have a 25-year corporate career, and about 10 years ago, I stepped into the entrepreneur journey, but really stepped into the unknown. I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, and I decided to step into coaching. And it was during the coaching process that I started to dive into more personal growth and personal development, which ultimately leads you on the spiritual path. And it was in 2020 where I was introduced to an astrologer by, I think you know Vaughn Piero, the breathwork specialist. Yeah. So she had introduced me to Susan. And at the time in 2020, I mean, a lot of us were going through a lot of turmoil and there was a lot going on in the world. I think a lot of people also resonate with that was their turning point as well. And for me, I call it my unraveling. I was going through some personal turmoil as well as I was questioning my professional path as a coach, because what I did was I took what I was doing in corporate and I really just became an entrepreneur doing the corporate stuff, corporate coaching, executive coaching, leadership development, and it wasn't lighting me up anymore. So I had a reading, an astrology reading for the first time ever. And it was at that moment that I started to discover so much more about myself beyond what I already knew and beyond the success that I had already achieved. It was like a whole new door opened for me as far as my path. She didn't know me. I mean, it was our first introduction. She could actually tell me themes that were happening in my life that I can confirm. But more than that, she also helped me confirm like what had happened that led me to that point, that it was all purposed. So I call it obsessed with astrology. I used to meet.
I think that's what happens too. It's like your calling calls you. It's not like you decide in a mental way that, oh, I want to learn about astrology because I want to incorporate this into my executive coaching. It's like these nuggets, these breadcrumbs get laid before you. And because you were self-aware, you realize that, oh, this is something interesting. And then, the passion comes.
Exactly. And so as I was learning it, I was learning it myself. She was meeting with me regularly. And then 6 months later, I decided to go through a formal program. So I went through a certification program. And so when I started to feel comfortable, it was about a year, I started to introduce it into my coaching practice. So I was doing single readings and, experimenting. I didn't have a lot of confidence when I first started. But what happens is when you start to do this and your clients start to validate, your confidence builds. And then I would stretch out of my comfort zone even wider to be, doing some more things around timing and business concepts. And so it's evolved over the last 4 years. So it's led me where I'm at now.
Yeah. Well, it's a great journey. And I think we all get these kind of taps on the shoulder almost, or whispers from the universe that, hey, this is kind of interesting, if you're open and aware enough to pursue those breadcrumbs, as I said before, then sometimes whole new worlds open up for you. So I wanted to just highlight that for everyone, because if you're feeling, we also say on this podcast, trust the niggle, that little tickle of intuition in your heart that's drawing you towards something, because that could be a part of your path. So let's break down astrology.
Okay.
So that people understand, I think we have a basic understanding of the planets move, the earth rotates,
Hmm.
the moons have a system, we have a birth date, a birth time, and all of those together kind of interplay to create an interstitial roadmap of our DNA almost, why we're here. So I don't understand it clearly
Okay.
because I can't explain it. So I'm hoping you can do better.
Sure, sure. And I'll break it down really simply. I'll assume a lot of your listeners aren't as familiar as you're more familiar than you're giving yourself credit for, by the way. So it really starts with your birth chart. So if anyone follows astrology, most people think of astrology as just your sun sign and your horoscope. That's what I went into astrology. Oh, I'm a Cancer sun, and I would read the daily horoscope for fun, for entertainment. But it's much more than that. You have a birth chart that represents where the planets were in the sky at the exact time that you were born. So your date, your time, and the location of your birth sets an energetic blueprint, your own unique, you call it DNA, your own energetic blueprint. And where the planets are on the chart, they're placed in a particular zodiac sign. So we have 12 zodiacs, and they're placed in a specific house that represents an area of your life. Or in some cases, you can even look at it as your evolutionary growth. That's a whole other topic. So when you have this energetic blueprint that never changes, it's static. And when you have a professional reading, like through an astrologer like me, I will help you interpret what those placements actually mean as far as, who you are, your soul's path, what you're here to learn, the challenges that you might be experiencing throughout your life to overcome, the gifts that you have. There's just like so much that you can extract from the chart, but it's like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. So that's like the first thing. It's your chart that is never, ever changes. And then the planets are still moving about the sky now. So you talk about the moon. We have, the moon moves around the zodiac every 30 days, right? So that's like a fast moving energy. The sun moves around the zodiac over the course of a year, thus your solar return and your birthday. Other planets move at different speeds. Where they are now and how they interact or project onto your chart creates certain themes and certain cycles in your life. So that's where it becomes an understanding of, let's just say you're going through a peak in your career, right? The interpretation of where a particular planet may be in the area of life in your chart that represents your career can tell you, oh, I have this year-long window of career growth, and you can line up against that and you can plan around that. So just to kind of simplify it, there's the never changes, which is your birth chart, and then the constant motion of planets that create cycles and create themes in your life.
Yeah, and, it's so interesting when you have that awareness. So the reading that I had with you was so eye-opening, and truthfully, I go back to it again and again, because it is like learning a new language, for me, and I know that you had shared that this is a very auspicious time for me in terms of visibility and, writing a book and getting my message out. And it's like, the next couple years. And so now I feel this internal pressure to let go of some of my inhibitions or the psychology that gets in the way of the blueprint that's already been established for me. So in many ways, understanding your astrology doesn't guarantee that you're going to accomplish all that's available to you. There are, the energy of the planets is supporting certain movements and certain growth, certain developments, but it's also up to you to be able to get over yourself and make the right move. So that's what I was thinking, and why the neuroscience
Mhm.
aspect of what you do is also so important for executives and leaders.
That's exactly why I brought it into my coaching practice, because I was already certified in the neuroscience coaching, which you're familiar with. And what it did for me and what it did for my clients is I can actually accelerate the process. So without the blueprint, we go through a series of questions and exercises and coaching that now I can look at the chart and have a session with somebody, and automatically we're starting to address the patterns rather than uncovering the patterns through a series of coaching calls. The patterns are right there for me to actually walk through with the client. So it does accelerate it. It actually does. And then having the coaching background, it's almost as if, when you're given a tool like astrology, and I heard this, somebody else said this, I can't remember who said it. You almost have to have a therapeutic mindset. You have to have a coaching mindset. You have to have a counseling mindset, because the information that you're sharing with somebody is very sensitive, and you have to know exactly how to reveal it and how to ask the right questions, because you could potentially be opening up trauma, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true, especially when you get into the relationship areas and decisions that people make about relationships, and we've all been there. I mean, if you've lived long enough, you've had some relationships that didn't really work out. Or timing. And I know sometimes with the timing that I tend to pre-plan my calendar for the whole year, and as far as launches go and things like that. And then I remember there were some things that I planned that were not in alignment with the cycles for me. And I was like, oh, screw it. I'm just going to do it anyway. Like, how much of this is actually true? And so if you've ever done a live launch or a webinar or something like that, that completely flopped or didn't deliver, that sometimes it's not completely your message or your follow through or the precision with which you delivered the message or how you followed up on leads or any of that. It could just be bad timing.
Hmm. Exactly. So I plan my year that way. And that's what I do with my clients as well. So I had a client this year who had, a Mercury retrograde in her. And for those of you who don't, Mercury is the planet of communications and thought. And it was, moving backwards, which means it's a period of time where you want to reassess and reevaluate and review. And it was moving backwards in her money part of her chart. So it wasn't a good time to be launching, and it wasn't a good time to be selling. So we planned her vacation around that period. So that's when she took some downtime. So that's like a practical example of how you would use the cycles to inform when you want to be, moving forward, when you want to be pulling back, when you might want to be restructuring.
Yeah, and I remember there was a time, I think there was a window, I believe it was in June, and I want to say like the second week in June where things stopped going retrograde and it was a really auspicious time. And I remember just acquiring a bunch of new clients during that window.
Mm.
And I was like, wow, there really is something to this. So, even if you don't believe it, you can test it, right? You can have a reading. You can just conduct your own experiments on timing. Just don't invest a whole lot of hope into going against something that's just not likely to deliver the results that you want.
Yeah,
So,
it's a tool. I use it's a tool, Deb, right? It's
yeah,
another tool that and I say it's not so much for prediction, but for more precision, right? So
yes,
there's no predicting the outcomes. I had a client this morning who I'm meeting with later on. I said, "Is there anything specific you want to talk about tonight?" And she said, "I want to know about my move, a potential move to," and she named the place. And I knew for sure that a move was in the stars because that's what the energy's bringing, a move. But the location, I'm not a fortune teller. And so I just said, like, look for the opportunities and trust that what do you call it? A niggle? Trust the
yeah.
niggle, because there could be opportunities that are presented that are outside of where you live. And if it feels aligned, yes, then the move is right. So that's how I use the tool.
So astrology is not predictive. What are some of the other myths that people believe about astrology or may think about astrology that simply aren't true?
Well, the thing that comes up a lot is the archetypes, right? So it's like, oh, you're a Cancer and this is how, you behave. And it's not like I'm a Cancer sun, which is my identity and my life force. So it's like my personality, but I'm also a Scorpio rising. And so people see me more as a Scorpio. That's the face that I present to the world. So there's the myths around labeling people based on either their sun sign or their rising sign, or those are the people that know astrology really well. But you have to look at the whole picture. You have to look at the whole chart. Do I have a strong sun in Cancer, or do I have a weak sun? Is it afflicted by some other planet in the chart that makes it hard to express myself? So it's not a linear sort of singular definition, but it's how you look at the entire chart and the combination of the archetypes to really come up with how you present yourself in the world, how you think, how you magnetize, how you take action, what motivates you, and if you have challenges or it comes of ease.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that, first of all, just like each one of us has an individual DNA, we each have an individual chart. No two charts are exactly the same. So, number one, there are no generalities as far as you're a Cancer, I'm a Libra, and what that means about us. So, it's much more nuanced than that. Secondly, it's an energetic force in the universe that combines with the other energies of thoughts and feelings and relationships and communications and all of that. So aside from timing and optimizing the astrological alignment and our energies, what else can we do with astrology and personal development?
Oh gosh, yes. Well, this was initially the reason why I got so much into astrology, because of the coaching work that I was doing. So, I mean, I can give you, let me give you a real life example. It's what I'm living through right now. I'm going through a cycle called a second Saturn return, and it happens every 30 years. It's pretty intense. So I understand based on the energy that Saturn is bringing to my chart and how I'll use the word activating the points in my chart. I know what's coming up for me and the patterns to break around those Saturn themes. I mean, I'm literally living it right now. So I would make different choices on how to do something different based on my old patterns, which then again, it's my own, now it's an evolution. I'm breaking patterns and I'm stepping into an evolved version of myself, not based on, past behavior or past patterns. Because a lot of times what happens is when I work with a client, they're validating for me when I read how it's nuanced. That's exactly why I do the things that I do, but you have the ability to change it, right? It's not that you're cursed with a particular placement or a particular configuration. It's this is what you're here to learn, and this is a pattern that you're here to break. So so that's a big part of how I use it. And I also I'm pretty passionate about this. Like we're all on our own divine timing. And so it's really important to understand, like with this Saturn return that I'm going through and some other things that are happening in my chart through about mid next year, I'm in somewhat of a quiet period, believe it or not. I mean, it's not like I'm not meant to do anything, but there are certain things that I'm meant to accomplish sort of behind the scenes or in a more maybe discreet way before I have that visibility peak next year. So that also helps a lot of people with, but why, and why are they doing so much better than me? And why are they, gangbusters in their business and I'm not? Because we're all on our own path and we're all on our own journey. And I actually even had to tell a client last week, was it last week, the week before, she was ready to like start developing her website. I said, well, how do you feel about that? And she had hesitation. And I said, well, I see that. I see that for the next few months, you're still cooking. I use the word cooking. Like you'll be ready after the turn of the year. But right now you're still cooking because you're still developing your voice. She's got a lot of communications activations in her chart. You're still developing your voice. You're still developing what you stand for as a leader. If you start putting this onto a website now, it's only going to change 6 months from now. She's like, okay, thank you. I'll wait until I do the full blown website. So those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. And as entrepreneurs who are stepping into this space for the first time, what is the benefit of understanding your astrological chart, what the planetary energies and movements are doing, and how that might affect you? What is the benefit of being in alignment with your astrology?
Okay, that's a great question. You're not forcing. You're actually moving with the flow of your own energy. So, and you know what it's like when you're trying to push a launch or you're trying to push writing a book, let's just say, but like the thoughts aren't coming to you and you're not feeling inspired to write, or, getting out on social media or inviting people to your launch feels heavy. It's probably not the time. I mean, there could be other things in your chart that say, well, you've got visibility issues and we'll work on that, right? So sometimes it is the energy, but sometimes it's also the patterning. So you're more to be in alignment with doing the right things at the right time. So that's not to say that you're going to, hide in your, in your office and not do anything, but maybe it's more like more reflection and more thought around what creative projects do you want to bring to the world? And you need the downtime to do that. So there's the time and a place for everything in building a business. And I am also so passionate because we came from the corporate world and we were conditioned to operate almost 24/7. Like think about it, right? We had our cell phones activated all the time. We were access to email. We'd work on the weekends. That's not the new era. The new era is more about aligning with your natural energy. And I say I feel passionate about it because your audience is former corporate people. And there's a huge identity shift that happens when you step out of corporate and into entrepreneurship. And you have to let go of a lot of those behaviors in order to build the business the way that you're designed to build it.
Absolutely. I've been thinking a lot about women and worth and how worth impacts wealth. And
That's in
so
your chart, by the way.
is it? Oh, I love that. I love that. So that's the message that's emerging. So it's good to know I'm in alignment. Let's talk for a few minutes about what people can expect from a macro perspective from what's happening in the sky and what we can expect as influences, planetary influences over the next year. And I know it's not predictive, but it's like, this is what's happening in the sky.
Yeah. So these are themes. I mean, there are really decade-long astrologers that will predict based on history. So you can find those people on YouTube. That's not the path that I'm down, but there are some patterns that are happening historically that are coming back. So let me talk about 2025. So even from we know a lot's changed. We've seen it in our business. We've seen it in the world. We've seen it in the country, right? It's no coincidence. There were a combination of very rare planetary cycles that were aligning at the same time that has never happened before in our lifetime. I mean, some astrologers are saying it hasn't happened for like 10,000 years and nobody was around then. So a lot of it has taken place. Like if you think about where you were in the beginning of the year and where you are now, you could probably say, wow, 6 months, that was like, I made a huge leap, right? You made a huge leap. I know I made a huge leap. That's not ending. I'm also talking about this quarter now, the fourth quarter, as it's still a period of refining and recalibrating and getting ready for what's ahead in 2026, because it's going to be fast moving energy. From a macro level, there are what they call outer planets that move very, very, very slowly. All of them have shifted over the last year, this year and next year. And so we're moving from slower moving, like, water signs and earth signs. So if you think about water, like water's very, very loose and very, unclear, and, earth is more, slow and steady. We're moving to fire and air. So that alone, the shift in the elements from water and earth to fire and air it's going to be fast paced. So expect that. We already are seeing with AI, like how quickly technology is picking up. It's going to be faster. It's going to even pick up around April. We're going to start to see more of the technology stuff pick up, but we're also being asked to be human, right? And to own our purpose. That's a big thing, because we're moving from the structural, organizational, tops down kind of environments to being more empowered and more sovereign. So I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see more people leaving corporate who want to express their own individuality and their own soul-led purpose. They're going to be feeling it. Some of us felt it earlier than others, but that's where we're being led. So we're going to see a lot of change in 2026 globally. We're going to see it here in the US, and individually. Some people might experience is these relationships don't work for me anymore. This job doesn't work for me anymore. What I'm doing in my business doesn't feel aligned anymore. And we're being really called more to our passion and our purpose.
Yeah, and this is why the blueprint is so important, because, coaching has increased like 60% in the last few years. Consulting is up 30%. We've laid off hundreds of thousands of federal workers. There's a lot of people out of work. And for some, that journey will be to find their purpose. However, with the advent of AI, there's this kind of like democratization of expertise, this genericization. I don't think that's a word, but this generic, learning from the learning model, and the learning model only has so much knowledge. It doesn't necessarily have innovation or invention or things like that available to it, because it's available knowledge. And so I believe there's going to be a great shakeout as more and more people enter into the entrepreneurial world. And it's only those who are willing to embrace their unique ability, their unique blueprint, and who are willing to go through the difficult stages of overcoming the shadows, of overcoming those inhibitions, and truly stepping into purpose and power, who are going to rise to the top and succeed. So that's why I believe that you were brought into my life. And I remember that conversation in New York City. Was it a year ago
It was
already?
in
Or
March. It was in March. Yeah.
it was in March. It feels like a year. That's how fast things are moving.
I know.
So it was in March when I looked at you and I was like, holy shit.
Mhm.
I've known you in other rooms, and I've never heard you be more authentic or true to yourself, to your expertise in sales and business development and leadership and coaching. And now with your expertise in astrology that you've applied to yourself, and now you're helping others step into that zone of genius, that zone of becoming, where you are unique. You have a unique blueprint. No one has your DNA. No one has your unique ability. And I believe that is, and this is my opinion, maybe you share it, but that is the ground rules for success in 2026.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, because we're meant to bring our individualized gifts, not duplicate somebody else. Like, so, and that was like my learning journey as well. Cause when I first got into the coaching world, I hired a lot of coaches and mentors, and I was following, what they were doing and how they were doing it. And I didn't have the kind of success that I've been having following my own blueprint and following my own way. Working with you this year helped to provide me with the foundations and the structure of my business. But what it also allowed me to do was express my own uniqueness and my own authenticity. And I feel like this year was a major growth spurt for me. And just like I was brought into your life, you were brought into my life. So, for a reason. So I thank you for that, because it's been an extremely beneficial. I look at my business so much differently now than I did this time last year.
Yeah. And, I'm so glad to have been a part of and to have witnessed you embracing your unique ability and bringing all of you to the table, because that's what we're meant to do in this new era. It's not enough to, you know, uh, just bring parts of us,
Hmm.
right? So in corporate, you don't bring all of you, right? So especially as women, we're coloring inside the lines, we're fitting inside the box. It's the antithesis of authenticity and bringing all of you to the table and embracing your unique ability. There's only certain aspects of your personality or your skill set that gets rewarded. And entrepreneurship is that path if you're willing to embrace it. So, Barbara, how do people get in touch with you if someone wants to work with you, get their chart done, learn more about the energetic alignment of the planets and their blueprint? What do they do?
Sure. I think the easiest way is just to go to my website, which is www.barbaracalexander.com. You can book a complimentary call with me. I'd be happy to talk to anybody who this has resonated with. I also have on my website, I have a section called In the Media. And you'll see some other podcasts that I've done if you want to learn a little bit more about me. And you can download a chapter of a book that I contributed to that tells you in plain, simple language all about astrology. So that's a free download as well.
Love that. BarbaraCalexander.com. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your planetary wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you, Deb. It was a pleasure.
That's it for now, my friends. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast. Do us a favor and leave us a rating or review. And also join the Life After Corporate community, where Barbara is also a member and is a regular contributor with her newsletter and other items of interest. And reach out to Barbara for a reading. It is life-changing, my friends. It is one aspect that many of us have overlooked and can be a key to opening a door to greater success. So that's it for now, my friends. We will see you and hear you, or you'll hear me next time on Life After Corporate. Take care.